Not invited to my own daughter's baby shower. The words hung in my living room like poison as I stared at my iPhone, my bifocals slipping down my nose. There on Facebook, glowing like a neon sign of rejection, was my daughter Melissa's baby shower invitation, shared by her college roommate Tara, with the caption, "Can't wait to celebrate baby boy Harrison this Saturday. I'm Eleanor Winters, 67, widow of 3 years, retired elementary school teacher of 32, and apparently a forgotten mother." My fingers trembled as I pressed Melissa's contact, photo her wedding picture, where she's beaming beside Ryan, the son-in-law who never quite warmed to me. Straight to voicemail. Again. "Hey, sweetie, it's Mom, just calling to chat about the baby shower. Call me back when you can." My third such message this week. The doorbell rang. Patrice, my neighbour, delivering her mail that had been mistakenly left in my box. "Eleanor, don't you look lovely? Hot date tonight?" she teased, eyeing my freshly coloured silver-blonde bob. "Just a video chat with a gentleman from Silver Singles," I admitted, blushing like a schoolgirl despite my age spots and crow's feet. "His name is William, former architect, widower like me." "Good for you, how's Melissa? Getting close now, isn't she?" "The shower this weekend," I said, forcing brightness into my voice. "I'm so excited." Patrice's face fell instantly. "Oh, Eleanor. I thought Tara mentioned to my daughter that Melissa didn't want you there. Something about keeping it stress-free. I assumed you knew." The room tilted slightly. After Patrice left, I sat in my silent house, the half-finished baby blanket in my lap, soft yellow yarn, with little ducks that had taken 3 months to knit. I'd included a special stitch my mother taught me, one I'd hoped to teach Melissa's son someday. My phone pinged. William asked if we were still on for our chat. Beside it, the Facebook notification showed 5 more enthusiastic responses to a celebration I wasn't welcome to attend. That night, sleep refused to come. I stared at the ceiling fan, memories whirling like its blades. When did the distance between Melissa and me become an unbridgeable canyon? 3 years ago, Harold, my husband of 41 years, collapsed in our garden, pruning shears still in hand. The stroke was massive and merciless. After the funeral, grief consumed me like a physical illness. I barely left my bedroom for 6 weeks. "Mom, you need to get dressed. People are asking about you," Melissa had said, arms crossed in my doorway. At 35, she looked so much like her father, same determined jaw, same impatience with emotional displays. "I can't breathe without him," I'd whispered. "Dad wouldn't want this," she replied, clinical and detached. Now I wonder if my drowning in grief had terrified her, seeing her unshakable mother broken. A month later, she introduced Ryan Harrison tall, successful, meticulously groomed. Their courtship was a whirlwind. Engagement announced after just 4 months. "He's very protective of you," I'd observed carefully when she'd cancelled our third mother-daughter lunch because Ryan had planned something. "He takes care of me," she'd replied, a new edge in her voice, "unlike some people who needed me to take care of them recently." The barb had landed precisely. My phone buzzed. Judith, Harold's sister, texting at 1 a.m. "You up? Just saw Tara's post. Call me." Judith understood. Her son Michael hadn't spoken to her in 2 years, not since she'd voiced concerns about his wife's spending habits. Last Christmas, she'd mailed presents for her grandchildren that were returned unopened. "I warned you about Ryan," Judith said when I called. "Classic isolator. Started with your friends, then family." "It's not just Ryan," I admitted, pain twisting my stomach. "The Thanksgiving incident." Last November, I'd noticed 3-year-old Emma Ryan's niece struggling with her fork at the kids' table. I'd knelt down to help, showing her how to hold it properly. Ryan's sister had appeared instantly. "We're teaching her independence," she snapped. "I was just helping," I'd explained. That's the problem, Eleanor. Melissa had materialized, face flushed. You're always just helping when nobody asks you to. The argument escalated until I'd shouted, 30 years of teaching children means I might know something about child development. Silence had crashed across the dining room. Melissa's eyes had gone cold. And 0 years of keeping your opinions to yourself means you won't be involved in raising my children. I hadn't been invited to their Christmas celebration or their anniversary dinner. Then came the pregnancy announcement, a text message with an ultrasound image. No phone call, no visit. I'm going to be a grandmother, I told Harold's photograph on my nightstand, tears streaming. You'd be so excited. Later that night, I scrolled through years of photos on my phone. Melissa's graduation, our mother-daughter trip to Savannah. Her radiant smile as I helped her into her wedding gown before Ryan's mother took over, relegating me to the background. The deterioration wasn't sudden, but incremental permissions slowly revoked, territory steadily lost. Judith, I whispered into the phone, what if I'm never allowed to know my grandchild? Then he'll never know what an extraordinary grandmother he's missing, she replied. Remember what the therapist told me about Michael? Their rejection doesn't define your worth. Easy words, impossible truth. As dawn broke, I made tea in Harold's favourite mug and read Melissa's last text to me, sent 2 weeks prior. Mum, please stop sending baby name suggestions. We've already decided. My grandson already had a name I hadn't been trusted to know. 3 days after discovering the shower, I finally broke. Not the quiet tears I'd been shedding since Harold's death, but ugly primal sobs that bent me double on my kitchen floor. My cheek pressed against the cool tile where Harold had once spilled wine during our 40th anniversary dance, laughing as he pulled me down with him. What would you tell me to do? I asked the empty house. The answer came in Harold's practical voice. Ellie girl, you can't control others. Only yourself. I pulled myself up using the counter, caught sight of my reflection in the microwave door eyes swollen, lipstick smeared across one cheek. Unrecognizable. For 3 years I'd been fading, becoming the stereotype of the forgotten widow, the unwanted mother-in-law, the irrelevant elder. No more, I whispered, straightening my spine. If Melissa wouldn't include me in celebrating my grandson's impending arrival, I would create my own celebration. Not out of spite, but from love and self-preservation. I reached for my address book, the leather-bound one Harold had given me our first Christmas together, not the contacts in my phone. Some occasions demanded the tangible over the digital. First call, Barbara Miller, my teaching partner for 27 years. Eleanor, it's been ages. Barb, I need your help with something unconventional. As I explained, her laughter warmed me through the phone. Oh, honey, that's not unconventional. That's brilliant. Count me in, and I'll bring Joan and Patty from the old 4th grade team. Next, Harold's brother Thomas and his wife Susan. About time you stood up for yourself, Ellie, Thomas said, his voice gruff with emotion. Harold always said Melissa got her stubbornness from you. Maybe it's time to remind her. By evening I had 12 confirmations, including Susan's offer to handle decorations and Barb's promise of her famous lemon cupcakes with booties piped in blue frosting. Then came the call that changed everything. Aunt Eleanor, it's Chelsea. Melissa's cousin, Susan's daughter, now 35 with 3 children of her own. I heard through Mom what's happening with the shower. Is it true? I confirmed, embarrassment burning my cheeks. That's ridiculous. Mom showed me the invitation from Ryan's mother. It specifically said, no extended family, which apparently means you but not Ryan's 3 random aunts from Phoenix. My heart squeezed painfully. You've seen the invitation? Melissa sent it to Mom to explain why we weren't invited. But here's the thing. Ashley, Emma and I are all coming to your celebration instead. So are Uncle Thomas and Dad. Tears threatened again, different ones. But won't that upset Melissa? Honestly, Aunt Eleanor, Melissa needs a reality check. This isn't like her. Ryan and his mother have been, she hesitated, controlling. We've all noticed. After hanging up, I created a proper invitation. Eleanor Winters invites you to celebrate her upcoming grandmother journey. I chose elegant cream cardstock from my teaching days and added pressed lavender from my garden. 3 days later, my doorbell rang while I was addressing envelopes at the kitchen table. Melissa stood on my porch, face flushed, holding her phone with Chelsea's RSVP text displayed. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" she demanded, pushing past me into the hallway, one hand supporting her 7-month belly. "I'm celebrating becoming a grandmother," I replied, surprising myself with my steady voice. "By stealing my guests, by making me look bad to the family? I invited people who care about me to share my joy," I said. "People who actually wanted to include me in this milestone." "You're being childish and selfish," Melissa snapped. "It's my pregnancy, my baby shower." "Yes," I agreed, feeling strangely calm. "And I am your mother, the woman who carried you for 9 months, who nursed you through chickenpox and heartbreaks, who saved for your college education. And for some reason, that position no longer warrants an invitation to celebrate my first grandchild." Something flickered in Melissa's eyes, doubt, perhaps. Ryan thinks, I interrupted gently. Or Ryan's mother thinks. Her sudden silence told me everything. "My celebration is happening whether you approve or not," I said. "You're welcome to attend, of course. There will always be a place for you at my table. That's what mothers do. We keep space for our children, even when they stop making space for us." She left without another word, but her shoulders had lost their rigid set. That night, William called. "How's my favorite teacher?" he asked. For the first time in weeks, I smiled genuinely. "Finding her voice again," I replied. Saturday dawned with the kind of golden sunshine that seems almost deliberate, as if the universe itself approved of my rebellion. My hands trembled slightly as I arranged hydrangeas Melissa's birth flower in Harold's crystal vase. The dining room table was transformed with a pale blue tablecloth, silver balloons hovering overhead, and a hand-painted banner reading, "Eleanor's Grandmother Celebration," in Susan's beautiful calligraphy. "Harold would be proud," I whispered, adjusting his photograph on the mantel so he could oversee the proceedings. The doorbell rang at precisely 2 p.m. Barbara stood there, silver-haired and beaming, holding a 3-tiered stand of those promised lemon cupcakes, each topped with tiny blue fondant booties. "You look magnificent," she declared, taking in my new dress periwinkle blue with a flattering waistline that had cost more than I'd spent on myself in years. "I feel ridiculous and brave all at once," I confessed. The best things usually feel that way. Within 30 minutes, my modest home overflowed with laughter and conversation. Thomas and Susan arrived with Chelsea and her sisters. 3 former teaching colleagues brought collective wisdom from over a century in the classroom. My neighbour Martha brought a casserole and her indomitable spirit. When my Danielle excluded me from my granddaughter's first birthday, Martha confided as we arranged gifts on the sideboard, I thought my heart would never heal. Now that same granddaughter spends every Wednesday afternoon with me, while Danielle works. Time has a way of shifting perspectives. The most surprising arrival was Tara, Melissa's college roommate, looking uncomfortable but determined. "I shouldn't be here," she admitted, pressing a gift into my hands. "But what's happening isn't right, Mrs. Winters. Melissa isn't herself lately. I've tried telling her, but Ryan," I finished for her. She nodded, relief in her eyes at being understood. Chelsea clinked a spoon against her wineglass. "Attention, everyone. While this may be unconventional, we're here to celebrate something very conventional, the circle of life continuing, and Aunt Eleanor becoming the grandmother she was born to be." Cheers erupted, Someone started the playlist I'd created, all songs from the year Melissa was born, and Susan produced a grandma-to-be sash which she draped ceremoniously across my chest. "Speech!" called Thomas, his eyes suspiciously bright. I hadn't prepared anything, but words rose naturally. When my daughter was born, the nurse placed her in my arms and said, "Congratulations on your new teacher." I didn't understand then. I thought I was just becoming a mother. But motherhood, and now grandmotherhood, is about teaching. Teaching love, resilience, forgiveness, and sometimes, my voice trembled, teaching boundaries. Barbara squeezed my hand as Chelsea wiped away tears. Today I'm learning that family isn't just blood or obligation, it's a choice. All of you chose to be here to stand with me in this bittersweet moment. That makes you my family in the truest sense. After the speeches came the games, ridiculous and wonderful. We guessed baby animal names, measured my grandma intuition, and shared advice for the new grandmother. Thomas told embarrassing stories about Harold as a new father. Chelsea passed around her phone showing photos of her 3 children as babies. Martha touched my arm during a quiet moment. My support group for estranged grandparents meets Thursdays at the community centre. You're not alone in this struggle. I was contemplating this when my phone rang. William's scheduled video call. "Should I take this?" I asked Barbara, suddenly shy. "Absolutely," she insisted, ushering me to the quieter kitchen. William's face appeared, handsomely weathered beneath a crown of silver hair. His eyes widened at the scene behind me. "Eleanor, you look radiant. Is the celebration happening now?" "In full swing," I confirmed, turning the camera to pan across my living room full of laughing guests. "I wish I could be there," he said, his voice warm with sincerity. "Save me a cupcake for our coffee date tomorrow?" After we hung up, Chelsea appeared with her phone. "Family photo time, Grandma." We gathered in front of the fireplace, me centered beneath the banner, surrounded by smiling faces. The flash went off 3 times. "I'm posting these," Chelsea announced, tagged with the best grandma celebration ever. "Melissa will see," I cautioned. "That's the point," Chelsea replied, unrepentant. "Sometimes people need to see what they're missing." As if summoned by our conversation, my phone buzzed with a text. "Melissa, are those my cousins at your party?" I slipped the phone back into my pocket unanswered. For once, my daughter could wait. Today was about me, the woman who had given life to her, who had shaped her earliest years with boundless love, who was reclaiming her own voice after years of dimming herself. "Who wants to hear baby Melissa's stories?" I called, reaching for the photo album I'd placed deliberately on the coffee table. The genuine delight on my guests' faces was sweeter than any shower cake could have been. The doorbell rang at 4:37 p.m., an aggressive, sustained buzz that silenced the room mid-laughter. I knew before opening it who stood on the other side. "How dare you!" Melissa's voice cracked through the entryway, her pregnant form trembling with rage, phone clutched in her white-knuckled grip. "You've turned my family against me on purpose." Behind her, looking thunderous, stood Ryan, his jaw clenched, and more surprising, his mother Evelyn, elegant in cream linen despite her mottled red face. "Hello, sweetheart," I said calmly, stepping aside. "Would you like to come in? We're having a lovely celebration." The 3 of them entered my living room like invading generals, only to confront a unified front of my supporters. Thomas stood immediately, moving to my side. Chelsea crossed her arms, chin raised in defiance. "You've deliberately sabotaged my shower," Melissa accused, waving her phone where Chelsea's Instagram post glowed accusingly. "My cousins chose this over my actual baby shower." "Technically," Chelsea interjected, "we weren't invited to your actual shower, remember? No extended family." "That was for space reasons," Ryan's mother cut in smoothly. "Funny," Thomas remarked, "since Eleanor is the grandmother, not extended family. Yet she wasn't invited either." Ryan stepped forward, hand on Melissa's back. We wanted a stress-free event for Melissa, given past tensions. "Oh, stop it!" The voice came from the doorway where Judith had just arrived, looking windblown but triumphant. "Sorry I'm late. Michael drove me. He's parking the car." My heart skipped. Michael, Judith's estranged son, was here. "Aunt Judith," Melissa's anger faltered momentarily. "What are you—" "I'm celebrating with my sister-in-law," Judith stated firmly. "And I brought someone who has experience with family reconciliation." She stepped aside as Michael entered, a tall man with Harold's eyes. "Melissa," Michael nodded, then turned to me. "Aunt Eleanor." "This is ridiculous," Evelyn Harrison sniffed. "A spite party for a grown woman throwing a tantrum because she wasn't included in every aspect of her adult daughter's life." Chelsea stepped forward. "Mrs. Harrison, with all due respect, you've systematically pushed Aunt Eleanor out since the wedding. We've all watched it happen." Ryan's face darkened. "This is none of your business." "It is when you're isolating my cousin," Chelsea fired back. "Melissa hasn't visited her mother in months. She missed Eleanor's birthday for the first time in 38 years. She didn't even tell her mother what hospital she's delivering at." Melissa's eyes widened, hand moving protectively over her belly. "I'm not being isolated. Ryan just wants what's best." "Ryan wants what his mother tells him is best," Thomas interrupted. "Just like with the wedding seating, the holiday dinners, and now the shower." Ryan's face flushed crimson. "My mother understands family dynamics. She knows how mothers-in-law can overstep and cause problems for newlyweds." Michael cleared his throat. "That sounds familiar. I kept my mother away from my children because my wife convinced me Judith would interfere. 2 years of therapy taught me I was projecting my own fears onto my mother." The room fell silent as Michael approached Judith, taking her hand. "I was terrified of failing as a father. It was easier to shut Mom out than face the possibility I wouldn't measure up to the parent she was to me." Melissa's lower lip trembled. Her eyes met mine, then darted away. "It's not the same." "Isn't it?" I asked softly. "Sweetheart, when did we become enemies?" "When you start judging everything," she burst out, tears flowing. "The way we furnished our house, Ryan's career choices, how I dress." "I've never—" I began. "You don't have to say it. It's in your eyes, the way you purse your lips, how you talk about other mothers who do things differently, as if there's only one right way your way." The accusation hit me like physical pain. Had I been so transparent in my concerns? Had my face betrayed me while I thought I was being supportive? "And now the baby's coming," she continued, voice breaking, "and I'm terrified I'll mess up and you'll be there watching, counting every mistake." The room blurred through my tears. "Oh, Melissa." Ryan moved closer to his wife, protective. "My mother went through this with my grandmother. The constant criticism, the undermining. She warned me not to let it happen to us." Evelyn nodded emphatically. "My mother-in-law questioned every decision. It nearly destroyed my marriage." "So you decided to protect Melissa by excluding me completely?" I asked. "Based on your experience, not ours?" A flicker of uncertainty crossed Evelyn's perfect features. Barbara stepped forward. "I've known Eleanor for 30 years. She's the teacher who stayed after hours helping struggling students, who learned sign language for a deaf child no one expected to succeed. If she's made mistakes as a mother, it wasn't from lack of love." "The shower was my idea," Evelyn admitted suddenly. "Ryan was concerned about tensions, and I suggested limited invitations." Melissa looked at her husband. "You told me Mom declined the invitation because she had other plans." Ryan couldn't meet her eyes. "I thought it would be easier that way." The betrayal on my daughter's face was devastating to witness. "I would never," I said, finding my voice, "decline an invitation to celebrate my grandchild. Never." Melissa sank onto my couch, suddenly looking exhausted. I've been so confused, so torn. I knelt before her, knees protesting. I'm not perfect, sweetheart. I may have judgmental eyes sometimes, but I promise you this, I will always, always love you more than I'll judge your choices. Her hand reached for mine, tentative. I'm scared, Mom. Of course you are. All good mothers are terrified. I squeezed her fingers. It means you care enough to worry about getting it right. Our eyes held, something fragile rebuilding between us. Chelsea's phone camera clicked softly, capturing the moment mother and daughter, grandmother and mother-to-be, the circle continuing despite its fractures. The waiting room clock ticked past 3 a.m., its hands moving with excruciating slowness. 2 months had passed since the confrontation in my living room, 2 months of careful conversations, tentative text messages, and slowly rebuilding trust. Now I sat clutching a paper cup of terrible coffee, William's steady presence beside me as we waited for news of my grandson's arrival. Try to relax, William murmured, his hand covering mine. First babies often take their time. In the 8 weeks since our first in-person coffee date, William had become my unexpected anchor. A man who listened more than he spoke, who understood grief without drowning in it, who looked at me like I was still beautiful at 67. Thomas dozed in the corner chair while Judith flipped through outdated magazines. On the far side of the room, Evelyn Harrison sat rigidly upright, checking her watch every few minutes. Our détente was fragile but holding. The day after my grandmother's celebration, Melissa had called. "Can we talk?" she'd asked, voice small. "Just us." We'd met at the park where I'd pushed her on swings as a toddler. Walking slowly, matching her waddling pregnant pace, we began the painful work of excavating years of misunderstandings. "I felt like you stopped seeing me," she'd confessed, "after Dad died. Like I became just an extension of your grief. And I felt abandoned when you pulled away," I'd admitted. When Ryan came along, it seemed I'd lost both my husband and my daughter in the same year. We'd established boundaries, clear ones this time, not the silent assumptions that had poisoned our relationship. She would include me in her son's life, but decisions about his upbringing were hers and Ryan's alone. I promised to offer advice only when asked, to respect their parenting choices even when they differed from mine. Ryan had been harder. A week of cold silence followed by an awkward dinner where he'd finally admitted, "My mother's experience coloured everything I expected from you. Slowly, carefully, we'd begun rebuilding. Like archaeologists reconstructing a shattered pot, the original form recognisable but the cracks still visible." The delivery room door swung open at 3:42 a.m. Ryan emerged, surgical cap still on his head, eyes red-rimmed but radiant. "He's here," he announced. £8, 4 ounces. Melissa's asking for her mom." Evelyn's sharp intake of breath was audible, but to her credit, she managed a tight smile. William squeezed my hand. "Go meet your grandson, Eleanor." The hospital room was dim, peaceful after hours of labour. Melissa looked exhausted, triumphant, transformed her face shining with the particular radiance that belongs uniquely to new mothers. "Mum," she whispered, "come meet Harold Thomas Harrison." My heart swelled painfully at the name my husband, her father, living again in this tiny bundle. "We call him Hal," Ryan said, standing on the other side of the bed. "Melissa thought you'd like that." "Your father called me Ellie," I told the sleeping infant as Melissa placed him in my arms. "So you're Hal, and I'm Ellie, and that makes us quite a pair, doesn't it?" His tiny face, red and wrinkled, bore hints of Harold's nose, Melissa's chin. My finger traced the perfect shell of his ear, and he turned instinctively toward the touch. "He knows you," Melissa murmured. "I've been talking to him for months," I confessed, "through your belly, when you'd let me." Ryan cleared his throat. We're still working out a schedule, but we thought maybe Sunday dinners at your place. And perhaps you could watch him one afternoon a week when Melissa goes back to work. The offer this olive branch brought tears to my eyes. 3 days later, my living room hosted a different gathering. Martha from next door, 2 women from church, and 3 others from the community centre, all grandparents, navigating complex family dynamics. Eleanor started our meeting, Martha announced. Their baby shower drama sparked something beautiful. The grey-haired and graceful support group, I said with a smile, passing around Hal's hospital photos. William arrived as the meeting ended, bringing takeout and his gentle attentiveness. How was grandmother therapy? He teased. Healing, I replied, for everyone. That Sunday, my dining table hosted its first family dinner in years. Melissa and Ryan with baby Hal, Thomas and Judith, even Michael and his family. Evelyn declined but promised to join sometime soon, progress in its own way. As I watched William holding Hal, making the infant's tiny hand wave at me, I realized something profound. Rejection had ultimately given me more than inclusion would have. It forced me to find my voice, to rebuild myself beyond the roles of widow and mother, to create connection, rather than merely inherit it. Everything okay? Melissa asked, catching my thoughtful expression. Better than okay, I assured her, meeting her eyes directly. I'm learning that love isn't about holding tight. It's about creating space for everyone to be fully themselves, flaws and all. My daughter smiled, recognition dawning. That sounds like something Grandma Eleanor would say. Well, I replied, reaching for her hand. She's still figuring it out too.